I know you guys are expecting the next build in my Animal Kingdom party, but one of my patrons has asked me to build a build for them for Fist of the Ruby Phoenix. And since I know one of the party members is going to be the Eldamon class from third party, I figured, why not build a character that can buff everyone on the battlefield? So let's get right into this. For this build, we want to focus on three main things. First, we want to focus on void damage. After all, we're building a Necromancer here. Secondly, we want to buff as many creatures that are on the battlefield as possible, including our main allies and the Eldamon class's summons. We also want to do some summoning ourselves, as we're Necromancer. Of course we're going to summon undead. If we can focus on those three things, this will be an amazing build. Remember that void damage will basically affect everything except for undead and constructs. We're not going to be able to do much damage if we run into those. But that's where our summons come in. For today's Ancestry, we're going with the elf. Plain and simple. Elves make fantastic spellcasters, especially intelligence-based ones, which is what we are playing today. And for our heritage, we're going with the Seer Elf. This gives us two main things. First, it gives us Detect Magic as an innate spell, meaning we don't have to pick it as one of our witch spells that our familiar knows. It also gives us a +1 bonus on checks to identify magic and decipher writing of a magical nature. I don't know how much that second one is going to come up in Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, but it's good to have if you need it. For your attributes, intelligence and dexterity are going to be your most important. Intelligence is going to help you do more void damage, and you're going to have a lot of spells, so you may be able to debuff enemies with the Occultist as well. And dexterity is obviously for your defense. You're also going to want to put points into your wisdom and your charisma, but those aren't near as important as your intelligence and your dexterity. Alright, for skills, you're going to want to focus on recall knowledge here. There's probably going to be a lot of different creatures that you're going to go up against in this tournament in Fist of the Ruby Phoenix. So being able to identify them and their weaknesses is a big deal. And since we're intelligence based and we've got decent wisdom, we can pick essentially all of them. Arcana, nature, religion, occultism, especially occultism, even society. Depending on what the rest of the party is, you may want to put some points into medicine as well. Stealth can also be very effective for this build, as can crafting and intimidation. Which recall knowledge skills you can increase is really going to depend on what kind of stuff you're facing in this tournament. I chose occultism and religion, but like I said, I really don't know what you're going to face in this tournament, so you may want to change that. For today's class, if we haven't figured it out yet, we're going to be playing a witch. And for our patron, we're going with the Spinner of Threads. This gives us the occult spell list, which pretty much covers all this build's goals. We get Summon Undead as a spell, which again, we're a Necromancer, we want to summon undead. We get a good amount of spells that deal void damage, and the occult list is the best support list in the game. Our familiar automatically gets the Sure Strike spell, which is a decent spell, not great, but decent. But more importantly, we get the Nudge Fate Hex cantrip. For one action, we can cast this spell on any creature within 30 feet, and it lasts for 1 minute. When the target fails an attack roll, skill check, or saving throw, if a +1 bonus would actually help and turn it from a failure into a success or a critical failure into a failure, they get that bonus. They receive this bonus retroactively, so they'll know whether or not it will actually help. After the target uses this bonus, the spell ends. If you cast this hex again when one is in effect, the previous one ends. So you get one creature, basically. But a retroactive +1 to basically any roll, and only when it will help, is really, really good. Unfortunately, this can't turn the success into a critical success. That'd be way too broken. But we want to cast this on actual party members, not summons. It'd be a waste on summons. You're going to be using this a lot, so you'll need to get your focus points back quickly. You also get the Familiar of Balanced Luck. Anytime you cast or sustain a hex, you can target one creature within 15 feet of your familiar. That creature gains a +1 bonus to their AC, or a -1 penalty to their AC until the start of your next turn. It's your choice on this, so you can buff allies' AC or debuff enemies' AC. This is a status bonus and penalty, so both of those will stack with the off-guard condition. And between this and the Eldamon Trainer, you're going to be using your summons to flank a lot. This won't stack with something like Demoralize, but yeah, you're going to be flanking a lot. So this can be extremely useful. For level 1, all we get is an Ancestry feat. And we're going to go with Nimble Elf. 5 foot more move speed doesn't sound all that much, but for Spellcaster, it's huge. As an elf, we already have a speed of 30, but this will give us 35, which will make it much easier for us to get away from melee attackers, which is a big deal for Spellcasters. For our level 2 class feat, we're going to be taking Cackle. With the Cackle focus spell, we can sustain a spell as a free action, meaning we can keep up our undead summons without spending an action, which is a pretty massive deal. Granted, we do have to spend a focus point to do this, but this is for those situations when we need to cast a spell, sustain our undead, and move, which we are definitely going to run into. For level 3, we are going to be taking Canny Acumen. We won't become an expert in Fortitude saves until 5th, and we won't become an expert in Reflex until 9th. We want to pick Fortitude here, because that's our lowest save. Even though our Reflex will only get up to Experts, it'll still be higher than our Fortitude at Master. So we want to pick Fortitude here. For level 4, I've gone with Rites of Convocation. We pick a summon spell. For this, we're going to want to pick Summon Undead. We can now spend 10 minutes communing with our familiar to replace one of the spells we have repaired with Summon Undead. It does have to be the same rank of the spell we gave up. But with this, we always have access to Summon Undead. If we run out of Summon Undead spells, we can say, okay, what spell do I want to get rid of? Now I can cast it. For our level 5 Ancestry feat, I've gone with Otherworldly Magic. Like I said, Undead and Constructs aren't going to be affected by void damage, which means we need an option to hit them. So we want to pick something like Electric Arc here, or Ignition, or something like that. Something that we can actually use to hit Undead and Constructs. Otherwise, those are going to be a major problem for us. This is one of the main reasons why we need high Charisma, as this spell is going to go off of that. Also, Intimidation is an effective thing you can do with this spell. For level 6, I've gone with Greater Lesson for Lesson of Protection. This will give us the Mystic Armor spell, which is a great buff spell, and the Blood Ward Hex. Target one creature within 30 feet and choose one of the following: Aberration, Animal, Beast, Celestial, Construct, Dragon, Elemental, Fey, Fiend, Fungus, Monitor, Ooze, Plant, or Undead. You can sustain this spell for up to 1 minute, and the target gets a +1 status bonus to AC and saving throws against all creatures with the trait you selected. This is just a better Forbidden Ward because it applies to all creatures with that trait, not just one. But it is only one ally, so you need to choose wisely about who you cast it on. But it's also a focus spell, which means you can cast this every single combat. Just like Forbidding Ward, but it is slightly limited. A lot of Adventure Paths like to throw multiple creatures of the same thing at you. So this would apply to all enemies, not just one like Forbidding Ward. But this does mean you technically could have Forbidding Ward up and this. You would have to sustain it 2 times, but that's what Cackle is for. At level 7, if you've seen my videos, you know exactly what I'm going to say here. Toughness or Die Hard, one of the two. Doesn't matter which one you take here, but you're going to want to take both eventually. At level 8, we of course do have the Occult list, which means we can take Spirit Familiar, which means once per 10 minutes, we can do pretty good spirit damage to an enemy within 20 feet, with a will save against our spell DC. Again, this is another reason why we want our intelligence to be high. This also allows us to heal an ally within 30 feet as well. This is of course 2 actions, but this is an excellent thing our familiar can do now. This is a great teamwork option that you should be using as much as possible, especially when an ally is low on health. For our level 9 Ancestor feat, we've got another defensive option with Elf Step. This allows us to step 10 feet rather than 5. Another fantastic way of getting away from melee enemies. I highly recommend this feat for any spellcaster. Doesn't matter whether you're playing a Necromancer or a Blaster or anything like that. And the last feat I'm going to cover in this video is Quicken Casting. Some spells take 3 actions. If we can get it down to 2, that's amazing. This is only a once per day thing, but 2 action summon spell, that's a no-brainer. We need that. Plus, being able to cast a 2-action void spell for 1 action, pretty good too. Alright, for spells, you're going to want spells to deal void damage. And there's quite a bit on the occult list. Grim Tendrils and Vampiric Maiden are excellent spells, and there's others too. You are, of course, also going to want buff spells like Forbidding Ward. And of course, Phantom Pain is always a spell you want to take, period. If you have access to it, of course. And finally, Summon Undead is going to be the spell you want at your highest rank. Whatever that is. Summon spells are always good because they give something else for the enemy to worry about besides your party members. And if you can get an enemy to attack one of your summons rather than you or your party members, it's always good. For free archetype, the Reanimator archetype is an excellent one for this build, as is the Summoner archetype. As much as I hate Summoner as a class, Summoner archetype is good for this build, as it basically gives you a free undead that you can just have. Granted, it is tied to you, so you do have to be careful about how you use this free undead. And Summoner feats can make your undead Eidolon quite a bit more powerful. You won't be able to use tandem actions, but it's a free undead that you don't have to sustain. And the Reanimator archetype does allow you to have more than one undead as well. Another good archetype for this build is Bard, as that just gives you more occult spells. Of course, that's assuming you have high enough charisma. Sorcerer is also an effective option, but again, you gotta have good charisma. And lastly, Wizard. If you want arcane spells, Wizard is how you'd pick them up. And those spells will go off intelligence, which is gonna be your highest stat. And that's the Necro Witch done. Hopefully my patron enjoys this build, and I hope you guys do too. And of course, if you guys are interested in Starfinder content, you can check out my second channel, TPG Starfinder. And of course, if you want a path builder for this build, you can absolutely check out my Patreon page. Also, if any of you guys are interested in me building your build on this channel, or a build on my Starfinder channel, you can absolutely join my Patreon page at Team Leader or higher. And of course, the links to my Discord and my other social media are in the description below. Remember guys, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.